They thought they could pick on him and get away with it. But they never saw this coming. A quiet day at a California park turned ugly when a group of bikers decided to target a black teen. They were loud, aggressive, and full of hate. But what they didn't know was that this teenager wasn't helpless. Trained in self-defense and martial arts, he carried more strength than they could handle. What began as a show of intimidation quickly spiraled into something they'd regret forever. This story isn't just about a fight. It's about standing tall against prejudice and proving hate never wins. It all started as an ordinary day. The sun was shining, the air was crisp, and the park was alive with people going about their business. Among them was a black teen sitting on a bench, enjoying his solitude. He wasn't bothering anyone, just lost in his own world, perhaps listening to music or thinking about his day. But sometimes existing in peace is enough to draw attention. A group of bikers spotted him from a distance. They were loud, boisterous, and looking for trouble. They laughed among themselves, whispering and pointing in his direction. To them, he was an easy target, a teenager alone, minding his own business. They assumed he was powerless, and that assumption fueled their sense of superiority. Their first move was subtle, almost casual. They rode their bikes closer, circling him like predators, gauging their prey. One of them shouted a snide comment, something laced with prejudice and meant to provoke. It was the kind of remark designed to test boundaries, to see if he would react. When the teen didn't take the bait, they escalated. The insults became louder, cruder, and more direct. They began mocking his appearance, his skin color, and everything they thought they could use to demean him. Their voices carried across the park, and yet no one intervened. This moment wasn't just about intimidation. It was about asserting their dominance, a twisted display of power rooted in hate. But the teen didn't flinch. He sat there, calm and composed, refusing to give them the reaction they were fishing for. His silence wasn't a sign of fear. It was a calculated decision, a show of restraint that they mistook for weakness. To them, his quietness was permission to push further. One of the bikers dismounted and got closer, invading his personal space. The man towered over him, his tone dripping with menace. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?" he sneered. The teen looked up, his expression unreadable, and said nothing. That only enraged them more. The situation was spiraling. Their group dynamic emboldened them, feeding into their false sense of invincibility. They began surrounding him, creating a circle that cut him off from any easy escape. It wasn't just verbal anymore. Their body language became aggressive, their movements designed to corner him. The challenge here wasn't just their numbers or their size. It was their collective hatred. This wasn't about a single insult or a passing moment of aggression. It was about the layers of prejudice they carried with them, the entitlement they felt to tear someone down because of the color of his skin. For the teen, the challenge was multifaceted. It wasn't just about standing up for himself physically. It was about navigating a situation that could escalate dangerously fast. He knew that any wrong move could be used against him, that people like him were often judged more harshly for defending themselves. But he also knew that staying silent forever wasn't an option. Then came the breaking point. One of the bikers reached out and shoved him, a sudden, forceful action meant to provoke a reaction. The group laughed, their voices echoing through the park. They thought they had him cornered, that they'd succeeded in asserting their dominance. What they didn't realize was that every second of this encounter had been carefully observed by the teen. He wasn't panicking or freezing in fear. He was calculating, assessing, waiting for the right moment. He wasn't just a victim, he was a fighter who understood the value of timing. The challenge wasn't just the bikers. It was the societal weight behind their actions, the deeply ingrained belief that they had the right to act this way without consequence. For the teen, the challenge was proving them wrong, not just for himself, but for every person who had ever been in his shoes. This was no longer just about a group of bikers and a lone teenager. It was about prejudice, power dynamics, and the resilience it takes to confront hate head-on. The stakes were high, and the tension was palpable. But the teen wasn't done yet. The bikers thought they had all the power. Surrounding the teen, they laughed and taunted, fully confident that he wouldn't dare to challenge them. But as they kept escalating, they failed to notice the small, deliberate movements he was making, the quiet adjustments that signaled he wasn't as helpless as they assumed. One of them leaned in closer, mocking him, trying to provoke a visible reaction. "What's the matter? Scared?" The others jeered, their voices ringing through the park, drawing attention but not intervention. Bystanders hesitated, unsure if they should step in or just watch from a distance. The teen, however, wasn't panicking. Inside, he was calculating. Years of training in martial arts had taught him more than just how to fight. It had taught him discipline, patience, and the importance of keeping a cool head in high-pressure situations. He knew he couldn't let his emotions control his actions, not when the stakes were this high. He observed their movements carefully, noting how they positioned themselves. It was clear they weren't just trying to intimidate. They were building up to something more physical. The circle around him grew tighter, and their body language shifted. He could see it in the way they clenched their fists, in the way their laughter turned into something darker. One of the bikers suddenly reached out and shoved him again, harder this time, nearly knocking him off the bench. The group roared with laughter, their confidence surging. But for the teen, this was the moment he'd been waiting for, the moment he knew he had to act. Without hesitation, he stood up. His posture was calm but commanding, his presence suddenly shifting the dynamic. The bikers faltered for a split second, surprised by the sudden change in his demeanor. They didn't know that this wasn't just some random teenager. They were standing in front of someone who had spent years mastering the art of self-defense. The leader of the group stepped forward, trying to reassert control. "Oh, so you've got something to say now?" He sneered, moving closer. But before he could make another move, the teen acted. With lightning speed, he deflected the man's attempt to grab him, using a precise martial arts maneuver to redirect his momentum. The biker stumbled backward, shocked by the unexpected response. The group froze for a moment, stunned into silence. But the teen didn't stop there. He knew this wasn't over. Another biker lunged at him, but he sidestepped with ease, using his training to stay in control. Every move he made was deliberate and calculated, designed not to provoke further violence, but to protect himself and create space. The bystanders, who had been hesitant to intervene, began to take notice. Some started recording on their phones, capturing the moment as the teen held his ground. The bikers, realizing they were being watched, grew more frantic. Their confidence was unraveling, replaced by frustration and embarrassment. As the confrontation continued, it became clear that the power dynamic had shifted entirely. The bikers, who had started this encounter feeling invincible, were now on the defensive. They had underestimated their target, and it was costing them. One by one, their attempts to intimidate or overpower him were met with calm precision. The teen didn't just defend himself physically. He showed them that their hate and aggression couldn't break him. Each move he made was a statement, a reminder that strength isn't just about size or numbers. The group began to retreat, their arrogance replaced by visible discomfort. They mumbled excuses to each other, trying to downplay the situation as they backed away. But the damage was done, not to the teen, but to their pride. The teen remained standing, his posture steady and unshaken. He didn't chase them, didn't gloat. He simply watched as they rode off, their defeat written across their faces. The crowd that had gathered began to murmur, some applauding his bravery. The bikers may have left the park, but the impact of what had just happened lingered. This wasn't just about one encounter. It was about resilience in the face of hate, about proving that courage can dismantle even the most toxic displays of power. The bikers had pushed too far. Their arrogance and prejudice blinded them to the reality of the situation. They had underestimated their target. What started as intimidation had now escalated into physical aggression. The teen had endured their insults, stood firm through their mocking, and even remained calm when they surrounded him. But when one of them shoved him hard, attempting to assert dominance, everything changed. In that moment, the teen's instincts kicked in. Years of martial arts training had taught him to recognize danger, assess it, and react with precision. He stepped back slightly, shifting his weight, and raised his hands, not in a gesture of surrender, but in a stance that revealed his readiness. The bikers didn't recognize the subtle movements that signaled what was about to come. The leader of the group smirked, mistaking the teen's stance for fear. He stepped forward, gesturing for his friends to back him up. "You think you're tough?" he sneered. "Let's see what you've got." The others cheered him on, eager to see the confrontation escalate. The teen didn't flinch. He didn't respond to the taunts or the laughter. Instead, he kept his focus, his eyes locked on the leader, waiting for the inevitable. The biker swung at him, a wild punch fueled by anger and bravado, but it never landed. In one swift motion, the teen ducked and sidestepped, using the biker's own momentum against him. He grabbed the man's arm, twisted it, and sent him sprawling to the ground. The crowd, now watching intently, gasped in shock. The bikers froze for a moment, stunned that their leader had been so easily taken down. But the teen didn't stop there. He knew they wouldn't back off after just one move. Another biker lunged at him, aiming to tackle him to the ground. The teen anticipated the move, stepping aside and using a well-practiced technique to sweep the man's legs out from under him. The biker hit the ground hard, groaning in pain as his friends looked on, their confidence quickly unraveling. The rest of the group hesitated, unsure of what to do. Their laughter had disappeared, replaced by uneasy glances and whispered curses. They hadn't expected this, hadn't imagined that the person they'd tried to bully could turn the tables so decisively. The teen stood his ground, his breathing steady, his stance unwavering. He didn't chase them, didn't taunt them back. Instead, he remained calm, his every movement a display of control and discipline. He wasn't just defending himself. He was sending a message that hate and aggression wouldn't overpower him. One of the bikers, still determined to save face, charged at him with a yell. The teen pivoted smoothly, using the man's momentum to execute a takedown that left him sprawled on the ground. The crowd, now fully engaged, began to cheer. Some had their phones out, recording the entire confrontation. The remaining bikers, seeing their friends humiliated, started to back away. Their bravado was gone, replaced by nervous glances and quiet murmurs. They realized that continuing the fight would only bring them more embarrassment. The leader, still on the ground, struggled to his feet, glaring at the teen but saying nothing. As the group began to retreat, the teen remained where he was, watching them leave. He didn't shout after them, didn't gloat or celebrate. He simply stood tall, his presence commanding respect. The crowd around him began to clap, their murmurs of admiration growing louder. What had started as an act of intimidation had turned into a complete reversal. The bikers, once so confident in their ability to dominate, had been exposed as weak and cowardly. The teen, on the other hand, had shown not only physical strength, but also the courage to stand against prejudice. This wasn't just a fight. It was a moment that revealed the power of resilience, discipline, and self-respect. In just a few minutes, the teen had taken control of a situation that could have gone very differently, proving that hate and arrogance will always crumble when faced with real strength. The bikers left the park humiliated, their arrogance shattered. The teen, standing tall and composed, proved that strength isn't just about physical ability, it's about courage and self-respect. He didn't let their hate define him. Instead, he turned their aggression into a powerful reminder that prejudice can't win against resilience. The bystanders who had once hesitated now looked at him with admiration, understanding the impact of what they'd witnessed. This wasn't just about one fight. It was a moment that stood against hate, showing the world that courage and discipline will always prevail in the face of bigotry. Subscribe for more powerful stories like this, or watch the next one to see how courage always wins.